Jim Balsillie is the retired chairman and co-CEO of Research in Motion, better known as BlackBerry. A technology company he scaled from an idea to 20 billion in sales globally. His private investment office includes global technology investments, such as cybersecurity leader Magnet Forensics and space technology leader MDA. He is a co-founder of the Council of Canadian Innovators and CIO Strategy Council, as well as founder of the Centre for International Governance Innovation here in Waterloo, the Centre for Digital Rights, the Balsillie School of International Affairs, and the Arctic Research Foundation, another highly innovative initiative that is positioned vis-a-vis vessels across the Arctic, areas and positions that not even government offices reach. He is also a member of the board of the Carnegie Foundation, the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, and the Stockholm Resilience Centre Advisory Board, the Canada School of Public Service Advisory Board, and the Prefiguration Group of the International Observatory on Information and Democracy. Mr. Balsillie is an honorary captain of the Royal Canadian Navy and was the private sector representative on the UN Secretary General's High Panel for Sustainability. His awards comprise an exhaustive list, but include several honorary degrees, Mobile World Congress Lifetime Achievement Award, India's Priyadarshini Academy Global Award, Canadian Business Hall of Fame, Time Magazine's World's 100 Most Influential People, and 3 times Barron's list of world's top CEOs. We are delighted and privileged to welcome Mr. Balsillie here today. The floor is yours, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anne, and good morning and a warm welcome to all of you who've traveled to join us in Waterloo for this symposium, as well as those participating virtually. And it's my privilege to address this diverse group of thought leaders and policymakers working on cross-disciplinary challenges in public policy, and more importantly, working collaboratively towards solutions. I would also like to thank our hosts at CIGI and the BSIA, as well as Odessa Primus, Executive Director of GARI, for the invitation. My talk today will focus on the cross-cutting policy challenges posed by the contemporary economy, but also on the opportunities that you as leaders can seize to solve them. As the retired chairman and co-CEO of RIM, my perspective today is that of both a global tech entrepreneur, but also as a citizen with deep interest in public policy. The digital economy is growing exponentially in multiple complementary dimensions. The mutually reinforcing effects of these innovations are resulting in a seismic shift in the global economy and for the organization of societies. Today, data is everywhere but in national economic accounts. This puts enormous strain on economic policies and has major implications for societies across the globe. My presentation today is divided into 3 parts. First, I will describe structural elements that constitute the shift of the economy from tangibles to intangibles, and how, as a result, IP and data are now the most valuable assets in today's economy. Second, I will describe how this shift has led to data governance becoming the most important public policy challenge of our time. And third, I will propose solutions that address these challenges through policy frameworks and international coordination. The accelerated pace of innovation and the digital transformation over the past 40 years has created a new kind of economy in which the basis of wealth and power is derived from the ownership of valuable intellectual property and more recently from the control of data. IP and data have different features than tangible goods. They behave differently in the marketplace and therefore require different treatment for both organizations and policymakers. The digital transformation is also creating a new kind of social and political space, reshaping both public and private spheres. IP and data are now the world's most valuable business and national security assets. In 1976, 17% of the value of the S&P 500 was intangibles. Today, intangibles comprise over 91% of the S&P's $40 trillion total value. As noted by Dan Chiriak, who I believe is the world's leading economist in the digital era, the rapid development of automated decision systems has ushered in a new economic age of machine knowledge capital, a new form of productive capital that will compete with and complement the human knowledge capital. The consequences of this new era are profound, particularly because unlike human capital, machine knowledge capital scales enormously because it features zero marginal cost to replicate. Shifting our policy frameworks to adapt to these new realities is essential to ensuring prosperity, personal autonomy, global and national security, protecting our democracies, and addressing crises such as climate. The tangible and intangible economies are fundamentally different. In the production-based industrial economy of tangibles, the ability to produce efficiently at scale and sell at lower prices enables the capture of markets, which underpins profitability. Traditional economy trade agreements open foreign markets to gain greater access to production economies of scale. Competition naturally emerges from the removal of restrictions on commerce, and efficiency is based on the optimization of supply chains. With the shift to the knowledge-based economy, companies and countries turned their focus to strategically generating valuable IP assets, and more recently to strategically controlling valuable data assets. Wealth accrues to the owners who amass these two rent-generating assets that can be commercialized based on a principle of legal restriction. Digital products based on IP and data have effectively zero marginal production costs, which results in winner-take-all, or at least most, economics. Marketing opening thus drives concentration, not competition. The instruments designed to govern this type of global economy focus on protecting and enhancing the value of IP and data assets. A US National Bureau of Economic Research report states, and I quote, "Patents are the most concrete and comparable measure of innovative output over countries in time. They have a direct impact on wealth and power at the firm level and nationally, which is why smart innovation countries focused on owning and protecting these assets. Strengthening global IP protections has been a deliberate, sustained, and successful US policy, beginning with the 1988 Omnibus Trade and Competitiveness Act and the WTO's 1995 Trade-Related Aspects of IP Rights, or TRIPS, provisions, continuing right up to the TRIPS Plus provisions in both TPP and the recently ratified USMCA. There's a global race underway by large firms and nation states to own critical IP, especially for key emerging areas such as blockchain, automated decision systems, and machine learning. For example, China has taken a big page out of the US playbook with its industrial strategy for IP that involves specialized IP courts, IP education initiatives, aggressive participation in international marketplace framework structures such as standard-setting organizations, and generating massive patent stocks. In the intangible economy, the firm is the key agent of innovation because it's where commercialization occurs. The strategic operating principle for firms is called freedom to operate. Freedom to operate is at the core of the innovation economy because IP rights are by their very nature technical and legal monopolies. By owning IP, you restrict others from using a valuable idea, and then you collect economic rents when others use that idea. When a company does this well and at scale, they generate successful innovation outcomes for their stakeholders and their national economies. Successful freedom to operate strategies involve deep public-private engagement. As part of the digital transformation, we've come to depend on the vast network of internet and telecommunications infrastructure developed to allow for the open and rapid exchange of information and services, creating a big data tsunami sourced from a vast array of sensors that form the Internet of Things. IBM recently estimated that 90% of all the world's data has been created in the previous 3 years. Juniper Research reported that the number of connected devices is expected to grow to 125 billion by 2030. While profound in terms of its implications for the organization and governance of the economy and security, the current shift is unprecedented in terms of its rapidity and thus demands sophisticated policy approaches and strategies. This schematic is a representation of how I think strategically about the cross-cutting issues that the transformation raises. It's about values, the distribution of wealth, preserving competitive markets, preserving privacy, preserving health, maintaining the integrity of democratic processes, and ensuring national security. Since automated decision systems only see the human being in datafied form, the regulation of them must be premised on private individuals having rights and recourse to remedies concerning the use of and control over their data profile. This also, given its social nature and non-rivalrous public good characteristics, data gives rise to spillovers or externalities, both good and bad. Data governance is the most important public policy issue of our time. Whoever controls the data controls who and what interacts with it. Furthermore, any data can be reprocessed and analyzed in the future in new ways in the future that are unanticipated at the time of collection. This has major implications for security, democracy, and the global economy. Moreover, the effects of data are increasingly widespread to broader demographics, particularly among vulnerable populations, including children. Abuse of data compromises the very democratic processes on which we rely to intelligently and effectively address urgent challenges like climate change. A recent study by Neiman Labs showed that YouTube's algorithms push climate misinformation videos while their creators profit from it. We know quantitative social psychology that leveraged social media information was used to influence elections and campaigns. A sea of misinformation spread throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Societies that are torn apart by misinformation, behavioral manipulation at scale, and whose democratic institutions are under attack cannot effectively address serious challenges. Tailored national strategies and global cooperation are of the highest priority. In advanced policy circles, the competition to dominate automated decision systems has been characterized as AI nationalism or techno-nationalism. Because machine learning is a general-purpose technology, it is impacting all sectors and parts of society. It leads to winners gaining enormously enhanced economic, technological, and military powers. On this slide, I list the structural characteristics of the data-driven economy that naturally led to monopolies, which, among many other issues, compound privacy erosion. Competitive markets are failing and business dynamism is eroding because of data's unique features such as economies of scale and scope, network externalities, and information asymmetries, generating intense activity by US and EU competition authorities and regulators. How data is collected, processed, and used is at the center of surveillance capitalism, the business model centered around the capture and commodification of personal data for the core purpose of profit-making. Data collected in one part of the business is used to advantage other parts of the business, creating cascading monopolies from one marketplace to the other. Because monopoly power is exploited by the erosion of consumer privacy, regulatory responses must link privacy and competition. Big data, automated decision systems, and machine learning are revolutionary in two fundamental ways. First, they industrialize and accelerate the very act of learning. Second, they allow learning to access and mobilize information beyond the reach of the human mind. They create a veritable technological sixth sense. These new capabilities, applied at industrial strength, are revealing revolutionary new potential in virtually every sector of the economy, including food and agriculture, financial services, retail and commerce, education and research, transportation, government services, and observed in the New York Times article in this slide, healthcare. In this case, an automated decision system solved a problem which had vexed molecular biologists for decades and has since provided researchers with a treasure trove of data that will yield benefits for years to come. But along with the potential economic and social benefits, these same capabilities also confront policymakers with equally profound challenges. the implications of winner-take-all economics and the emergence of this new factor of production, machine knowledge capital from marketplace frameworks, the implications of increased concentration of wealth for distributional equity and the integrity of democratic processes, 3, new risks to national security, and 4, the unleashing of new strategic rivalries in geopolitics. Because IP and data have strong public good characteristics, private decisions do not price the associated externalities or spillovers into their contractual agreements. The pervasive dual-use characteristics have effects beyond the economy into social, security, health, and geopolitical realms. We must therefore evaluate and concurrently govern these assets accordingly. The matrix on the left of this slide shows the dual-use nature of data, requiring both a private and public policy response that extends beyond a traditional fiscal lens into the siloed lens of safeguarding personal information. The star graphic on the right is a representation of the cross-cutting nature of policy decisions for intangible assets, illustrating the need for integrated approaches. A topical discussion related to the dual-use nature of intangibles is the issue of global access to vaccines experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic. Vaccine-producing countries increased their domestic benefits and geostrategic advantages, while developing countries lacked the finances and domestic production capacity, were left to unsuccessfully petition the WTO for a TRIPS waiver to unlock certain IP provisions to allow for the equitable access to this life-saving vaccine. Global marketplace frameworks for climate technology diplomacy are undoubtedly next in line. Some countries around the world have well-established integration of dual-use policy considerations, particularly in the areas of investment security, and have retooled and recalibrated their prosperity strategies to fit the shift from the traditional economy to the economy of intangibles. For example, Australia's legislation allows for any research agreement to be invalidated with no appeal or review if deemed potentially adverse. Adverse includes anything from preventing IP leakage in technologies identified as sensitive to potentially jeopardizing foreign relations. In the UK, they recently created a screening regimen for foreign investment that both protects national firms while also considering security, particularly in strategic technology sectors, while many countries are now identifying as part of broader investment and security strategies. While these strategies are largely meant to protect national interests, there are many opportunities for coordinated approaches to challenges presented by the digital transformation that are also strategic within the international community. Regulatory cooperation is needed to address cross-cutting issues and is well underway in some jurisdictions. For example, France, Germany, and the UK competition authorities have formally linked arms with privacy regulators and started to cooperate on cases. In the Netherlands, the regulators for data protection, competition, media, and financial markets recently committed to sharing expertise on data processing, ADS, and other digital business areas. In the US, recent statements by the FTC and the DOJ make the case that privacy and antitrust can no longer be separated. Further, initiatives such as the Forum for Information Democracy seek to facilitate global standards and cooperation. Many of the challenges presented by the digital economy are routinely evaluated and solved for in a siloed manner that leaves out critical considerations. This slide represents how I believe the underpinning issue of the digital transformation is digital trust. Whether we're advancing technologies in digital identity or automated decision systems, or addressing the challenges they present through data governance and regulations, the constantly growing and shifting set of cybersecurity issues requires a focus on digital trust to ensure established guardrails that are rooted in our values while simultaneously enabling opportunities to secure our technological future. An effective policy tool to achieve this is through the creation of standards. Standards were essential in supporting the rise of the production-based industrial economy of the 20th century to commercialize the revolutionary all-purpose technologies of the day, such as electricity and the telephone. The same need for strategic positions on issues and standards emerged when the world shifted from the production-based economy to the knowledge-based economy, and now the data-driven economy. We are amid an historic technology-driven transition in the way value is created and captured in our economies, in how our societies function, and in the sources of national wealth and power. Here I lay out 4 core elements that must be resolved together to craft a stable system that can advance welfare globally. It must safeguard national security in the digital era, ensure fair access to the new factors of production to participate in the value created in the knowledge-based and data-driven intangibles economy. 3, it must protect and enhance student welfare in the non-economic realms of privacy, democracy, and ethics. And of course, number 4, comply with all international commitments under various agreements, including GATS, TRIPS, and FTAs. I submit to you all today that the top 3, digital security, fair economic access, and preserving sovereignty over social choice, can be resolved together, and in fact can only be resolved satisfactorily if done together with appropriate national level implementations and the creation of global institutions. As data-driven technologies continue to become the core infrastructure around which most of society operates, we must be able to shape our approach if the system is to be sustainable and accountable to citizens. Different countries will have different implementations. The challenge comes with reconciling national level choices in these domains with commitments and trade agreements that were made under different technological conditions and for the most part, ignorant of the value propositions in terms of the international distribution of benefits, because the rising tide in this prior system generally lifted all boats. Today, countries must be shrewd when it comes to their 21st century economic strategies, or they will be outmaneuvered by more sophisticated states and private companies, and in the process lose their security, sovereignty, and a fair shake at capturing their share of potential economic returns. Pay close attention to who controls the data. A global digital stability board is needed to institutionalize coordinated responses and underwrite a progressive digital future. We have arrived at a new Bretton Woods moment where the creation of new and reformed rules of the road at the international level is essential. Rules that preserve an open global trading system, yet at the same time respect a nation's sovereign ability to regulate the data-driven economy's profound, cross-cutting economic, security, and social effects. To address this, I've proposed the creation of an organization that would be akin to the Financial Stability Board that was created in the aftermath of the 2008 crisis. The time for a global collaborative solution is now. Laying the foundations for a safer and more prosperous future in a digital world is well within our reach. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jim.